know how I feel. Sun in the sky. You know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by. You know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me. Yeah. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the trees, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling dragonfly out in the sun. You know what I mean, don't you know? Butterfly, oh, having fun. You know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done. That's what I mean. And the old world is a new world and a whole world for me. Yeah. Stars when you shine, you know how I feel. Scent of the pine, you know how I feel. Oh, freedom is mine, and I know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. Oh, I'm feeling good. Oh yeah, I'm feeling good.
Fam, what's good with you? Okay, listen, happy Vespers on this beautiful Saturday evening. And of course, I'm going to always start anytime I step to the mic, the first thing I want to do is confess my filter. And the first filter that I felt was like, okay, I feel slightly discombobulated. I always write good on paper plans, and everything is supposed to work out according to that good on paper plan. And guess what? It rarely does. And what I have decided in this new season is to continue to press forward, to figure out exactly how to make it work. And so right now, I was not able to get to my office. I am actually in a spot wrapping up another meeting. And I had this live schedule, and I was like, you know what? The show must go on. And so I'm fortunate to be in the company of this very gracious person. It's like checking out my story. They're gonna get all of the tea. I want to thank my beautiful. I know that most congregations would call them ministers of music, but I'm like, yo, she's my minister of flavor and cool vibes, Miss Lynette Barber. She is a force to be reckoned with, and we bless our resident ancestral artist. Goddess, Miss Nina Simone. I'm feeling good, and that is what I declare. I'm like, you know what, doggone it, I feel good, despite all of the ways again that I'm like, oh my God, it's not it. It did not happen according to my good on paper plan, but I still got one, and I am still yet pressing forward. Here's what's happening. I have decided that I want to be a part of the hashtag solutions. There is so much anxiety and different things that's going on in our world. And I can't tell you how many phone calls I get from people that forget about our resilient nature. They forget about our history. They forget about how, listen, our ancestors went through so much more. And what we have to be very, very, very careful to do is to always claim our victory. I am hashtag team victory all the way. And the fact that, you know what, everything really is working out. It's working out bigger and better than we know. This past January 2020, as a matter of fact, was the very first time that I staged Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine. It was staged at a beautiful jazz club in Raleigh, Sea Grace Bar, and I've been watching the Sea Grace website, trying to see like if they made phase 3, if they're gonna be open. I have really, really been digging in on that. I miss them. I miss that community. And I was so fortunate to have my very first live event at Sea Grace, and then the pandemic hit. And what we decided to do was to live and to thrive and to live well and to not put ourselves in difficult spaces. And so listen, to close down, to go virtual, and I'm a part of a producers group where they're saying that, we're probably going to be, in virtual spaces until about 2022. And if that's the case, then the show must continue. We must continue to gather. We must continue to be voices of encouragement. And I believe, and I tell people this all the time, that our stories are hashtag solutions. Stories are solutions. And so I am grateful for the next 12 Saturdays up until the end of December. I have a phenomenal group of storytellers that I will be bringing you. Every week we're going to be blessed by the jazz stylistics of our minister of flavor and cool vibes. Miss Leva, she's cracking up in the green room. Like every time I call her that, I was like, listen, go ahead and run with it. She's like, all right. And so we're going to, Lynette will give us story and music. And then we will have a storyteller that will come and will bless us with how the truth meets story in their lived reality. We're going to do this at Vespers, and Vespers is an actual time of prayer. And what I believe about prayer is all of the many ways that it happens. It can, be you on your knees. It could be you walking in nature, which is my usual morning habit, or it could just be you breathing. You take a breath, and every breath that you breathe has God's name etched on it. That's what you do with what you create. You put your name on it. So every breath we take is a prayer of gratitude. And it is also proof that we have more work to do. So listen, breathe in, breathe out. Guess what? We got more work to do. And I am committed to doing that work. I'm so excited about the opportunity to do Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine virtually. I was thinking about all of the ways that I'm just different. Like I'm a different kind of, religious person. And I grew up in the church, and I love faith gatherings. I love, to go and to sit on pews. As a matter of fact, real talk, I have a bag that still has my journal, my Bible, and my church fan. That bad boy stays with me. Like that's what I do. But that's not all I do. And that's not the only way that I do it. And I realized that I was a different kind of a religious person when I was sitting on, I was in seminary, and I was sitting on the panel following the screening of Dee Ree's movie, Pariah. I think that was her freshman project. And Pariah was about this LGBT girl. It's a coming of age story. She's coming into her own, and she's exploring her identity, her sexual identity. And she's doing it with great pushback from her mother. And a little bit from her father as well, but she's surrounded by people who are like trying to pull her out, trying to help her be who she really is. And then she does this poem. She's a spoken word artist, and so she'll participate in different slams and different things. And so at the end of the movie, though, she has this beautiful line in her poem where she says, "I'm busted, I'm open, I'm busted open." And that line was so extremely profound for me. I'm busted, I'm open, I'm busted open. And I recited that line when I was sitting on the panel afterwards. That's how I opened my remarks. What I couldn't know at the time was that there was a beautiful Asian woman who was also part of the LGBTQ community. She had invited a series of her LGBTQ friends, and she wanted them to come and to be a part of this, with this group that's kind of like a different kind of like religious gathering. And what she said after I was done with the panel she called me and she said, one of my friends was in tears as you were talking. And what she said was, now her, I would pay to come see. I would be in church if she were my minister. And that was such a powerful revelation for me, that someone who was not really keen on church had listened to me just simply be, full on Alexis Grace, reverently irreverent, not practiced, not even polished, but just honest. And she said of me, I'd go and listen to her. And ever since she said that, I have been careful to be in spaces where I can be myself, and some stranger could be in the audience and said, okay, now that one I'll listen to. So that leads me to my first ministry assignment with the church plan in Phoenix, Arizona, City Square Church. And every January we had an interfaith month where we would bring in different ministers from other faith traditions, and we would talk to them. They would be the ones who would be our preacher for the Sunday. And the practice was based on how in the Epiphany narrative, the good news of the King, the Savior of the world, God is with us. That good news was not brought by Christians. It was not brought even by our Jewish ancestors. It was brought by foreigners and people who didn't even practice the faith. They see something and they come and they're like, wait, like, okay, where's the King? We want to meet the King. And so we wondered, what else has God proclaiming through these other voices? So that was what we did. So so now that I'm on staff, I'm responsible for identifying, different faith leaders to come and to speak to us. And one of the faith leaders that I identified, that I invited, was Iyanafa Omofunke. She's a Yoruba priestess and storyteller in Arizona, profound woman, practitioner of the Yoruba Orisha, Ifa Orisha tradition. And so I invite her to be one of our speakers, to come and to declare, like, what does God have to say to us through you? So I meet her in the parking lot that Sunday that she's speaking. And as I'm greeting her, she's like, oh, I've been up all night. She goes, I have been wrestling. And she goes, but it is because I got a word. And she goes, and it's for you, Alexis. And she said, but I can't give it to you publicly. You must come to my sanctuary and I'll give it to you in that space. Now I'm like, oh Lord, what kind of word is, it's coming from me. And I'm excited and I'm nervous because she's like, you've got to come alone. And I don't really know like the tradition, like, what am I going to come into? Anyway, scheduled the meeting. I go to her sanctuary and I was like, I felt really stupid that, I'm like, oh Lord, like what's going to be in her sanctuary? Well, she had books and candles and artwork, from her travels from around the world. And so I was like, well, I'm really Lex, like really, that's what we're doing. And so we sit at her in the sanctuary. I sit facing her. And she asked me a series of questions, and then she would swing the cowrie shells and she'd drop them, but the cast wouldn't close. And so she'd ask me another set of questions and I'd answer them, and then we'd have conversation. And then once again, she picks up the cowrie shells, she swings them back and forth, drops them. Cast still won't close. So now she's frustrated because she's convinced that she received a word from me, but she's waiting for it to materialize in a way that will close the cast. And so finally, that before she'd swung them a third time, she said to me, let me just ask you a question. She says, you've gone through all of this religious training. Why don't you have your own church? And I said, because I don't want one. And she just bust out laughing. And I said to her, I didn't go to seminary because I wanted to pastor a church. I went to seminary because I wanted to get tools for my ministry tool chest. I don't want to be confined to, quote, one pulpit. I'd rather have the world as my pulpit. Let me just send me out into the world and let me do that. I was like, and so I'm here with this wonderful assignment at this beautiful, church, United Methodist Church plant. And I'm the artistic theologian there. I get to find a way to use art and theology and to make that a part of the worship experience every Sunday. That's my job. And so I'm good, actually. And then she says, okay. She says, I got a word for you. She says, you are a queen being dragged to her throne. She said, you play small, you reduce yourself, so that you can pour into easy spaces where like there won't be a lot that's required of you. And she goes, but you have a calling on your life, and that call is to lead. And it is to lead in whatever way is real and right for you. But if you keep trying to play small, then you could be inviting, sickness on yourself. So by now I'm in tears, because she was right. I did have a habit of playing small because it was easier. And because I had done so much work to just be grand, to just walk in my full power, but I realized that not everyone had done that work. And so I would actually feel bad for the people who were like, I don't feel good about myself. And so I would try to shrink, so that they would not feel so bad about themselves. It's like I stand up and I'm head and shoulders above the rest, and I'm towering over them. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to give them a complex. So let me just let me shrink too and meet them where they are. And hearing her words, she was like, oh, no, ma'am, you got to stop that practice. And so I thought, wow, God, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for me to know that I am called to lead. And in leading, I will not shrink, because shrinking is not an effective way to get everyone else to rise up. And so here we are today. Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine, my three eternal loves. And me finding creative ways in the midst of this pandemic, when I have good on paper plans that I've written out, and they don't materialize in the way that I hope they would. But guess what? Plans change, and I change up my plans. I pivot, just to be sure that I am always in place and doing the work that I am called to do. So every Saturday at Vespers, for about 30 minutes, we're going to gather online. And I am going to speak life to your life. And I'm going to invite others to speak life to your life by telling you about where they've been, what they've doing. And then I invite the spirit of mystery of all things to come in and to translate for everybody who dares to join us on this wild and wacky journey. Wild and wacky it is, but it is highly, highly worth doing. It is worth doing. All is well, fam. Everything is working out. Before I go into declaring the prophetic hopes and engaging in energizing memories, I would like to call a name for the lament. One of my sister friends, Rhonda Berry, died suddenly and unexpectedly this week. And she has joined the realm of the ancestors. Rhonda Berry, I pray that you rest in peace and rise in glory. I lift up her daughters, and I invite you to lift up the daughters of Rhonda Berry when you think of her, and everyone who suddenly loses a loved one, but especially a mother. Their hearts are broken. My heart is broken. And I don't grieve as one who grieves without hope. All is well with Rhonda, and in due time, all will be well with us as well. I'm going to briefly pause, and let you call out whatever lament you have. Speak whatever name, whatever you grieve this moment. Grief is real. I was a part of a worship service last week where the pastor said, joy and sorrow reside in the same house. It's like, yeah, they reside in the same house. Acknowledge your grief. Acknowledge your grief. We lament, but not as ones without hope. In addition to the lament, though, I'd like to engage in a prophetic hope. Prophetic hope is a term that I learned from one of my favorite authors and theologians, Dr. Walter Brueggemann. And he talks about the power of hope and how hope penetrates despair. When we sit in despair and decide like, oh my God, woe is me, all is lost, we miss out on some really, really rich opportunities. All is not lost. Hope is created by speech. Here is what I speak. through my prophetic imagination. I speak people healed, whole, and happy. I speak empathy for our enemies. I speak art that reflects the unseen people, issues, and concerns. My artists, y'all are powerful. You are healers. Do the work. I speak prisoners freed, widowed and orphaned children's cared for, oppression annihilated, neighbors known and cared for. I speak peace for people experiencing chaos. I speak courage for our justice warriors. I speak new realities and a fresh anointing manifested in new ways and made visible through restored families and friendships. Hope is created by speech. I speak life over our lives. An energizing memory, and then a closing prayer. One of the things about our memories is that it helps remind us that we're not new at this, and it gives us a reason to continue to hope. One of my energizing memories that I wrote in my journal in 2017, when the new administration was sworn in and began to openly declare like war on asylum seekers. It was the weirdest thing, and just began to act up and like, okay, like, yo, we can do this. My energizing memory is this: immigration attorneys showed up out of nowhere at all of the airports. They showed up not looking for a paycheck. They showed up looking to help. People came out of the woodworks. Immigration attorneys showed up to help out. It was a powerful reminder of how every time we think that all is lost or everything is hopeless, there's always a ram in the bush. Energizing memories. Declare your own memories or speak life over your life, and engage in the memories that that you would have that would serve as a radical hope that every little thing really, really, really is going to be all right. Last two things. I want you to know that there are a lot of different ways that you can give, and there are a lot of different things that you can give. When you're finding creative ways to give, remember that you can give love, give shelter, give peace, give space. For those of you who are in, boss roles, give contracts to those of us who are independent contractors. And we are hungry to utilize our gifts and our talent. And you have a need, we have a gift. Let's make a deal. Give contracts this week. Give opportunities. Give grace. Give love. Give money. Be in the habit of giving. There is no lack. There's no scarcity. There's more than enough. So practice the art of giving. And finally, before we leave, I'd like to send you off with this. May the God of love give you an abundant amount of love to share and to go and to give to yourself and to others. May you love God, love others, and love yourself with proof. We are commanded to love. May the command to love lead us towards creative solutions. Ashe, Selah, so be it. Join us again next Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, where the music and story, the story and music will be again given to us by Minister of Flavor, Miss Lynette Barber, and our Truth Meets storyteller, guest storyteller next week will be Miss Star Robinson. Until then, fam, be blessed. All is well. Thanks for tuning in. See you next Saturday, 5:30. Blessings.